Hi, this is Mary Kurek with Frontrunners Innovate magazine, and I have a very special guest who's actually in the United States for a little while right now. And I'm not even going to try to say his last name because I know him as Dr. David. And I am so excited to present him to you. One of our league members introduced me to someone that he knows that he is with in the United States right now, who's helping him on a special project that we'll learn more about. And then she introduced him to me. And so we've been busy connecting him back and forth on different phone calls that will be supportive to his effort, because anytime you put healthcare and need in the same sentence, then it gets our attention. So, you know, we're all about business development and social impact spaces, and a lot of times it takes form in just kind of moving people forward wherever they need to go. So, Dr. David, welcome. So you're going to have to tell us your whole name, because you know, there's more to it than just Dr. David. So go ahead, and if you'll share that, and then also a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Mary. And gotta say, you did a fantastic job. So really, really appreciate the privilege of being on to be a part of what you're doing. My full name is David Ajibade. Sometimes they say, "How's your body?" That helps. So if you say, "How's your body?" Ajibade.
Ajibade. Okay.
So that kind of helps a little bit. Yeah, so I'm a doctor. I born and raised in Nigeria, a few years in Wales, and was trained the traditional way. As a medical doctor, I was into my residency in oncology, and then in the middle of all that, I kind of like had, you know, one of those crazy things that happen. You just up and leave and just leave everything behind, and I came to the US, basically because I wanted to understand I wouldn't say a better, but a more holistic way, a more integrated way of helping the body recover from illness, and not just recover from illness, but also how to keep the body functional and strong, with or without disease. And I think there was a lot that was being left behind where that was concerned. So I felt that I could learn a lot about that, and that led me down so many rabbit trails. We might get into some of that later.
Yeah, that's amazing. You have a good backstory there. I mean, I think your heart is so well-centered, and for the work that you do, and I'm just amazed at all that you've been able to accomplish so far. So talk to us about, now let's ramp up to the government approved study. Let's talk about your practice there and how sickle cell anemia got into your brain as something you needed to fix.
Well, so when I returned to Nigeria about 9 years ago, there were issues with, we started seeing problems that were pretty obvious and that weren't being taken care of, either by healthcare professionals or by the government. These problems included brain disorders with everything from cerebral palsy to seizures. And so we found out that we could do something about it. And we started using nutrients to help to stimulate the brain to repair itself. And we got a lot of success doing that. And it got the government's attention. And we got into a partnership with the government to address these things. In fact, the government gave us permission or endorsed us and went on to mandate us to teach about these things, not just in public, but in medical schools as well, because of the results we're getting. Now we have a TV show, which is on Africa's largest TV network. We are among the top. I've been told that our show is the third most popular show on that network. So we've been good at getting the word out. And so people would come with brain disorders, so they'll bring their kids. And a lot of that happens. I mean, 70% of all births don't happen in a standard hospital. So you can imagine once the births don't happen where there's a qualified doctor or healthcare professional, there's a lot of things that can easily go wrong. And a lot of things did go wrong, especially and the brain seems to be the first casualty of that problem. So we had a hands full. And in the process, we started having our parents bringing their kids with sickle cell disease who had multiple strokes before the age of 10. And to me, that was bizarre. I mean, as a medical student, the only time I ever treated kids, it's crazy. The only time I ever treated or had contact with kids with sickle cell disease was as a medical student over 20 years ago. And I never in my wildest dreams would I ever have thought I was going to treat or be doing what I'm doing today. In fact, pediatrics, I had made up my mind, pediatrics, it was a field, there were too many details. The kids, I didn't want any kids, the memory or thought that if I had done anything to any other child, a child of any other parents, and things had gone wrong and they had lost a child because of, I just didn't want to deal with that. So I knew I was not going to be doing anything pediatrics. But here we are, dealing with majority of our work is with kids, and not just kids, but kids with major brain disorders who are left hopeless. I don't know if you know this, but Nigeria has the highest number of kids, highest number of people with sickle cell disease in the world. We have over 4 million, and every year 150,000 are being born. 50 to 75% of them that are being born will die before their 5th birthday. Most of them will not survive their 30th birthday. So we're talking about a huge number of kids with mortality. And not just the fact that they're dying, but the fact that each day they're living with severe pain, crippling pain sometimes, crippling fatigue, unable to go to school. And I think the worst thing of all, Mary, is that these kids are living with, it's almost like a death sentence hanging over them. You are not going to survive past the age of 30. The doctors tell them that, their family members sort of tell them that, their community sort of tells them that, everybody looks at them with pity, and they have to live with this day in, day out. And to me, that was just unacceptable. So we decided to look into it. Like I said, they came to us because I had multiple strokes, and I dove into it, both hands, both feet, head first, to see what we could do about it. And we found out that we could do something about it. For pennies on the dollar, quite frankly. I know right now a couple of drugs have come out in the US worth $100,000 a pop per year to treat a child with sickle cell disease. Well, that's $100,000 more than most Nigerians can afford.
Yeah.
Including middle income Nigerians. So it's not going to work. So we thought, well, let's look at what we can do to make sure that can be addressed. And we found out that there was things that we could do. And there were simple nutrients that, quite frankly, these are some of these things are things you can go to any pharmacy, any chemist, and pick them up. You just need to know how to use them, what the dose should be, and when to give it to them. So the whole goal now is we want to reproduce the results we're getting that we've been getting in our hospital or clinic for the past, I believe, 5 years now. We want those same results to be reproduced in government hospitals. And the goal being that other doctors, other healthcare professionals treat sickle cell disease patients with that same approach, so that we can at least minimize the damage and minimize the loss that many of these families face each year.
So, Doctor, when you talk about the amazing results, because I know you and I've been on enough phone calls that I can almost, tell you what you're telling everybody else, that basically it changes the life of the kid they get back to normal, that they literally can get back on the football field or the soccer field or whatever is normal for that child to be able to do and change their lives completely. How can you, and I know this is a hard question to answer, but what kind of impact do you think this sort of thing will have based on what you've already learned about using nutraceuticals in this way? I mean, from a standpoint of how many lives saved maybe, or what type of impact do you see happening?
Well, I think it'll be huge if we can pull it off, if we can get the doctors, and that's the key, having doctors use that same approach. It's not just enough for one company or one organization to do it. So the impact, not just in terms of medical expenses, but in terms of wage hours lost, in terms of productivity, in terms of mental health, mental stress. I mean, it just the ripple effects are tremendous, because again, we're talking about 4 million people. Many of these are kids whose parents have to leave work. They're not able to finish the work because the next thing they're being called is their child has had a crisis or an attack. And they have to leave work, they have to leave what they're doing and go and attend to that kid. They have to end up spending a lot of money at the hospital. Insurance is still a big problem in Nigeria and many parts of Africa, so most of it is out of pocket. So we're talking about millions and millions of dollars that could be saved simply by using this approach.
So other than funding, and we'll talk about that in a minute, what do you see as the biggest challenge? Well, of course, you just mentioned getting other doctors to get on board, but what do you see as the biggest stumbling block or challenge to moving this forward from here? Not from what you expect that the doctors will do, but from here. Along with the funding, what else needs to happen? Is there something else?
I think that's a great question. Very few people I know are talking about this. So I think this whole awareness, which is another thing that we're trying to do, I mean, we don't really have to wait, Mary, until the results of the research that we're hoping to start in January. We don't have to wait until the results are out because we're talking about nutrients. We're not talking about a specific drug. We're talking about simple nutrients. Like, for instance, now we know that simply having kids drink more water each day could improve their symptoms a lot. So we're saying that there are certain nutrients that can be used. And so marketing, awareness, letting this knowledge seep into parents, those who need the information, healthcare professionals who need the information so they can make up their own minds. I mean, most doctors, rightly so, will need to have the data and have to have the academic backing to do what to change from what they're doing. But there are others who would say, well, there's no danger here. I don't see a big risk. I'm going to go ahead and apply it. But they won't know to do that unless they see or it is brought to their attention. So short answer to your question, I think a lot to do with marketing, letting people know about that this is possible.
Well, so you've been in the United States how long on this trip?
I mean, I've been living out of my suitcase for the past 3 months.
3 months, okay. I think you've been where you are right now for about 2 weeks, right? 2.5 weeks, like that.
Yes.
So you've been traveling all over trying to raise money for the study because the government, while they gave you the approval, did not also fund the project. And so you're out looking for the dollars that will make this happen.
Right.
So really what the dollars will pay for is what? Tell us that.
So a whole bunch of things. Obviously, we're looking at 3 hospitals where we're going to get 300 patients, 100 patients in each hospital with sickle cell disease, divide them into 2, the controls and the people who actually give the supplements to. So it's going to cover the cost of the hospital fees. So the doctors can see them. We're going to have to pay the doctors and the other healthcare professionals. There are a series of tests that need to be done every single month, beginning with the baseline. We also would have to pay for the transportation of all the patients and parents because, I mean, the truth is they're not going to come. They're not going to come unless
even motivation. Yeah.
You need motivation, even though you're giving them something that's going to help their child.
I know.
They simply will not come, so they need the transportation fare.
It is a clinical trial is basically the way that we would look at it in the United States. And so there has to be that motivation, that sort of reward for participating. So how long is the study? 3 months, I think you told me?
6 months, 6 to 7 months.
6 months, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So all that, and of course the specific supplements that we're using a company in Dallas known as Aloe Vera, and we're working with them to get the supplements into Nigeria and use that. We're using them specifically because we're trying to demonstrate, the first part of our research is to demonstrate that strengthening the immune system, what a concept, strengthening the immune system would help kids with sickle cell disease. Now, it would help in a lot of other conditions as well. So it's not news at all. Strengthening the immune system helps in so many different things. But when you demonstrate clinically that sickle cell disease can be helped simply by strengthening the immune system. And so that particular product, which is an extract from the aloe vera leaf gel, has been shown to specifically strengthen the immune system. So that's why we're using that, because that's its main function. We could have used other things as well, but the functions kind of like go in so many different directions. But we wanted one to be specific to the immune system. That's why we're using.
Fantastic.
So the money will also cover for
the cost of
the shipping,
the product as well, the medicine.
Correct. Yeah.
So as you look forward, when you get back to Nigeria, first step when you get back to getting all this in place would be what?
Well, That's a great question. So as soon as we get back, we're hoping that we would have at least the first tranche to transfer to the lead researcher who will now be coordinating the whole research. And so we will at least start that. But also at the same time, we're going to start working with opinion makers, government officials in those areas to really get that sense of buy-in, because as with Nigeria, with other organizations, other countries as well, you've got to have that personal, more so in Nigeria, you've got to have that personal buy-in and personal contact. Otherwise,
which is for you, you're a TV personality over there, so that shouldn't be so hard. That with a little government paper behind it that says we're doing this, with their blessing, maybe that will help. But
yeah, that personal contact is still huge. Otherwise, it's dead on arrival. So I see myself doing a lot of traveling, really, to raise awareness about what we're doing and get that buy-in so that everything goes smoothly.
So beyond this, once you get the study rolling, you get some results coming back. What's the plan beyond that? So
once it goes as we hope it will go, that demonstrates that this is what can be done. We want to use that data to advocate or make a strong, compelling push for the government to change the policy of treatment of sickle cell disease to include strengthening the immune system. Let's start with that. Everybody everywhere who has contact with a child with sickle cell disease should focus on strengthening the immune system, okay? Then, of course, we want to market, we want to do a lot of awareness, a lot of this social media stuff, creating videos, creating befores and afters, putting them up there, getting on TV shows. And obviously, we would like to partner with organizations as well, because I think, Mary, this research, I see it opening the door wide for a lot of different collaborations, a lot of different things that we can do, not just in the sickle cell disease space, but in other spaces as well. I failed to mention the Brain and Body Foundation, our organization, which is a nonprofit based in both the US and Nigeria, is we've been given the mandate to address a whole bunch of diseases using the approach that I kind of referred to it a little bit. So the same approach that we use, just simply strengthening the body, strengthening the brain, strengthening the immune system, can be applied to so many different things. And we're hoping that this will be, like I said, the opening of the door, or the opening of acceptance to these other approaches, and therefore the opening of the country to more collaborations with organizations that can bring in their expertise and their services to help address the different conditions that we've been approved to help to address.
So the funding and everything, is that run through the foundation?
Yes.
Okay, so the study itself is kind of run through the foundation.
Correct. So the foundation, we're working with another foundation, which is headed by a professor of hematology. We will be the funding foundation. They will be the implementing foundation. But I will still be considered the co-principal investigator in the project.
So at this point in time, what you're looking for are partners and investors, people who can jump on board and help you no matter where they're from. They have an interest in helping to get these types of solutions that not only lower the cost of healthcare, but save communities, whole communities of people, save lives and communities, and help economic development grow in these spaces. Should be a very appealing thing for a lot of people to hear right now. And we're not talking a tremendous amount of money for your study. You're looking for what, just 200,000, I think?
Yeah, about 200,000, yeah.
For this one, okay.
For this one, yes.
Yeah, which is nice to have a round number to work with and to be able to see how things can move forward. So if anybody out there is listening and has interest, right now as we sit, it is December 16th, 2020. And so Dr. David would like to start this study, get it going in January. So we don't have a whole lot of time to go on, with it. So act soon if you're going to act. Okay. So anyway, thank you, Dr. David. We appreciate your time and sharing this information and this really, really, really important work that you're doing. And, wow, I can see this having ramifications all over the world where sickle cell is just running rampant. So thank you very much for being the role model startup that you are out there trying to pull the trigger on this, so to speak. So thank you very much, and we'll check in with you as we go along and see how things are rolling, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me and for this interview.